Okay, welcome to the Innovators Mindset. I have Jonathan Flack. He is a partner at PWC and also is the U.S. Family Business Leader. Hopefully I got that right. John, thanks for joining me early in the morning in these kind of unprecedented times.
Thanks, Vic. It's great to see you, even though it's 2D, but great to see you here. Thanks for having me this morning. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good. So as you know, we've been highlighting innovators and companies that sort of spot a challenge and then jump in and take action and try to solve it. Talk about what you and your team saw out there as we try to get back to work. Businesses of all sizes are trying to think through how to best do that. What did PWC see?
Yeah, so just to frame up PWC a little bit, just to scale the challenge that we were trying to face first. So we have 257,000 employees globally, 157 countries where we have offices. If you pull that into the US, that's 57,000 employees in the US. Yeah. So we have a lot of employees. We have a lot of offices globally. Yeah. And then the nature of our work with our clients, our people are very mobile. They're traveling a lot to clients. They're traveling to conferences, yeah, et cetera. So our workforce internally is constantly moving, not only within the office, but also out in the
So PwC was a little bit used to that kind of always in flux movement because that's your job to be out there.
That's correct. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And so when we all went into the stay-at-home mode, which virtually almost every territory that we work in moved into, we obviously also had positive cases within our employee base. And the initial process for us to go through and just identify who might have had contact with that employee was very archaic. We did have systems, we did have some things to understand if they had logged into the office or not, but we really didn't have enough data and enough technology to be able to.
Who was getting coffee at the same time? You didn't have access to that,
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we went to work on it. We set up 5 years ago a digital innovation team, and it's a global team. We have digital innovation centers across our globe. And originally that team had been focused on our traditional business. We've been in business for 170 years. Right. We do consulting, tax work, audit work. And so we were
a pretty big ship. I mean, they're innovating, but in a pretty big operation.
That's exactly right. And not many people would ever accuse accountants of being very sexy and certainly not technologically savvy. But what we realized is we had fee pressures and our biggest cost is our people. So we're trying to find ways to more efficiently use our people and to use technology to do that. So we went on a hiring spree and hired a bunch of some of the best people out in the community with technology from all the big technology players, and had them start to solve problems for us as an internal organization. And so what that's done over the last 5 years is it's built a system of innovation within the firm. Yeah. And we did a really great
thing. So you had the capabilities and the infrastructure to attack a problem like this.
That's correct. So we started with the core team, but then 2 years ago, we realized that if we hire an enormous amount of people right out of college. The average age of our firm is 27. So you think about 257,000 employees, the average age of 27. We realized that those individuals are really smart and they're in the day-to-day of what we're doing. And so we started equipping all of our employees with technology skills around what is robotics. And we gave them tools like Alteryx and Tableau, and we gave them some basic bots to use. And we let them innovate. We have what's called the Digital Innovation Lab, the digital lab, where people can go in and they can create something that shortens keystrokes and a very simple process of logging into something. They post it.
You sort of expand that over 257,000 people, and it starts building on itself. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, and so it's thousands of different innovation techniques that we've developed. We've been able to shorten the amount of hours we have very dramatically for some of the very core and basic and very old things that we've done, preparing tax returns and things like that. So it's been incredible for our organization to kind of set that up, but it's ground up now and it's embedded now in our DNA.
Yeah, and so this, I'm going to call it contact tracing. I don't know what you would call it, but figuring out, okay, Vic is now COVID-19 positive. Who has he interacted with in the last 14 days? How did you deal with that challenge? Because everyone's trying to think through that right now.
Yeah, that's right. So as I mentioned, we had positive cases across the firm, across the globe. And what we looked at was, we know that, Apple and Google is coming up with some technology that's going to be used across society,
Yep.
and really for the purposes of supporting, health officials identify where hotspots are and also identify where people might be impacted. What we tried to solve for was an enterprise-wide solution for companies and organizations, to where they could identify whenever they got reported of a positive employee in their organization. They then could quickly go in and say who's been in contact with that individual. And so the technology we have, we call it automatic contact tracing, and it's part of a suite of services we call Check-In. And I could talk more about the broader suite, but specifically with the automated contact tracing, we're using ambient signals from your phone. So that's Bluetooth, that's Wi-Fi. There's other types of ambient signals that phones uses depending on organizations. And it uses a randomized code. So it collects no data other than using that randomized code to look at location.
Yep.
And so if Vic Gatto gets tested positive, we can go in and use that code and simply pull up the codes. Human Resources Department is the only one that would have access to this. All kinds of privacy security with that, of course, but we can go in and figure out who are the employees that have been in contact with you.
Who was I within 6 feet of my phone? And then my phone is always within a foot of me. And so that is a really good starting place of how do we track these contacts.
Absolutely. And the tool also helps you kind of separate high risk from low risk. So if you and I passed each other in the hallway, that might be considered low risk because we really didn't interact. If you and I were in a conference room for 3 hours together with 3 other people,
so it'll say the duration of the engagement too.
That's correct.
Or maybe the frequency. Like maybe you and I were working on a project and we see each other 15 times in a day because we're comparing things. That's obviously more risk than if we just like pass each other.
Absolutely. And that's all built into the tool, which is just really cool that it can really kind of rank your risk of employees. And again, that's something that HR sees. It doesn't notify. It doesn't say, hey, John Flack, you were in contact with Vic Gatto who got tested positive. It doesn't do that. It doesn't go back to the employee. It allows the organization to be able to assess the risk, and then they then control that communication back.
They're triaging in whatever way is best for the time and the resources and the situation.
That's exactly right.
So talk about the process. How many people got involved in this? What was the pace of it? I mean, this is a pretty significant development effort.
It really is. And if you think about the environment that we've been in, it's been difficult for our teams to be able to work on this together. So from beginning to end, the process for us for this was 5 weeks, from idea to launch. And I would tell you that's the shortest period I've ever heard of our firm coming up with any type of idea and launching it. And again, we had the infrastructure, and we had the mindset of people, and we had the resources to be able to go in and develop this tool. We developed this tool. We started out in the first 10 days, we're developing this tool for PWC employees so that we could lay that down. And once we realized that, well, all we're doing is we're developing a technology that could then be plugged into pretty commonly used technology like your phone and HR systems, et cetera. So this is a tool that doesn't require any hardware. It doesn't require any major significant investment. It really is something that can be handed straight over, and the setup is relatively simple. So that shortened the whole window as we used existing technology to help us take this to speed, and then use kind of simplistic manners at which the current version of this from a reporting standpoint has, knowing that we could go to 2.0 versions later as other types of challenges might be created that we needed to identify and layer into the technology.
So is it live now? And
live now.
Is it working at PWC? And as we start opening the economy and rolling out everyone coming back, is it ready for people to sort of contact you or contact PWC and try to look at it?
It absolutely is. It's live today. We're using it at PWC. It's part of our going back to the office plan, kind of our reentry plan for our firm. And it's ready to launch for any company and organization today. And,
thanks for sharing. Give me a sense for what do you think this experience and the pace of it does for your innovation team? Like, does that give them confidence, and do they spin up more things now?
Huge amount of confidence. We're looking at this as a product, as a suite of products. We have the automatic contact tracing that's come out, and then the other thing we brought out at the same time was a productivity tool called Check-In. And so the other thing we were hearing from clients, and we were facing the same thing, is when you sent your workforce home to work, you realized that they had a desktop and they didn't have Wi-Fi at home. And so we've also developed a tool called Check-In, which is very focused around monitoring productivity and then real-time identifying not only who is productive and not and may need help, but more importantly also how do you get those low productive employees back to work, in terms of asking them questions about, what's inhibiting from you being able to work. Is it Wi-Fi? Is it desktop? And again, using technology so that somebody's not on the phone, like calling their team members or emailing, et cetera.
Yeah.
So
we don't have that scale, but we have 80 portfolio companies, and they're struggling with all those issues too. Like maybe they thought they had Wi-Fi when they left, but then with home, homeschooling, and your spouse or maybe roommates are all on the same Wi-Fi. All of a sudden, the Wi-Fi that just you check your email once a day is not the same as you need now.
That's exactly right. So, and that's the same issues that we face. Same issue I face at home with trying to homeschool my 3 girls. So I think it's something everybody's facing. But how do companies get that information so that it's not a 2 or 3 week process to try to address it? It's a much shorter process getting back to productivity. I think if you think about the check-in and the automatic contact tracing and everything that you're hearing in the news about the potential for a reemergence of this virus at some form, and we might have to, as we're here in Tennessee, we're trying to get ourselves back.
Almost waves of outbreaks, so we'll have to be able to do this almost forever
and I think that wave's going to hit each company differently, because you may have companies that are practicing good social distancing and don't have a huge outbreak of positive cases. You may have others that have a manufacturing facility and all of a sudden you've got 100 employees that are impacted. So it's a simple tool that enables them to use that technology and get to speed in addressing those issues.
Yeah, and I think HR can control the privacy much more carefully and much faster than trying to roll. I mean, maybe Google and Apple roll this out over time, but those privacy concerns are much more complex because it's out in, I don't know, some politician somewhere has it, and who knows what they're doing.
That's correct. And, Apple and Google and what they're doing is remarkable if you think about society and everything they're doing, but they're using their operating systems to embed features in order to trace individuals using right now just Bluetooth. And so Bluetooth has limitations. With ours, we have the challenge of what we're trying to do is trace employees in an internal setting. So you think about not being able to use GPS, which GPS sucks everybody's battery down as well. So some negative to that. So we're using things like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and there's some other, like I mentioned, other ambient features of the phone, and that helps you be able to monitor that inside, and you don't necessarily have to have cell signal.
Yeah,
for that.
I think that makes sense to me. It also just from a personal privacy point of view, the HR department already has a ton of information on me. So like
Correct.
the step for me to then allow them to know where my phone is, I mean, yes, it's a step, but it's not as big a step as letting Google and Apple know everything.
That's correct. And the way we set this up was it uses a randomized code. Yeah. If companies wanted to assign like an employee ID or something like that, they could, but we thought it would be best and give confidence back to the employees here. If you used a randomized code, HR is the only one that has that randomized code, that gives some comfort that employees are feeling as though they have some level of privacy with it, but there's got to be some trust there. And I think that is something that we're all figuring out as a society, is that, my location, and if I get sick is going to be important to others, and I'm going to need to share something in order for me to feel as though I can be protected somehow.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. It's really, I mean, people think about the innovation being in a garage in California, with, I don't know, throw pizza boxes in there and that's what happens. But it's great to see a big company like PWC also, sort of meeting the need and taking action and throwing something up there that then is really helping people. So that's great.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the garage and pizza. I would guess that there was garage and pizza involved in this because we were all working from home as we did this. But, the only on-site location that we had that was actually building technology was a location we had in Shanghai, China, our innovation center there. So I think it's pretty neat that, again, we did this remotely.
Yeah, and it's remote and global at the same time. Which is
remote and global, that's correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then John, is there some way people can find out about this, a website or?
Just make it easy. Google PWC Check-In.
Okay, great. Okay, Perfect. Thanks, John. Keep safe out there.
Thanks, Vic. Appreciate it. Take care.